on this property, because like all of us know how to use recording every day. Like, I don't know why every meeting is just something like.
All right, John, you with us? Okay, here's a thumbs up. All right, that's enough for me. All right, we will call this meeting to order at 6:10. Did you hit record? I hit record. Oh, excellent, thank you. This is our regular meeting, regular February meeting of the Norfolk Board of Education.
Really?
Sorry, you're right. It's our March meeting. Things are going well. Take two. Theater voice. Get everything together. We will call the meeting to order at 6:10 on March 7th. This is our regular March meeting of the Norfolk Board of Education. First item on our agenda is public comments. The Norfolk Board of Education welcomes public comments. We ask that all comments be limited to 5 minutes. And we also ask that all commenters know that it is our policy not to respond directly to public comment, but do know that we hear you and that if a question is asked, we'll follow up after the meeting. We do this in order to help our regular business meetings continue to run smoothly. So we have a few members of our public here. Would anyone like to make a comment?
Well, I would just introduce myself since most of you already don't know me. I'm Skylar Thompson. I live on the region board for 8 years, 6 or 7 chair, and on the local board here 8 years, 6 as chair. And I've also spent 10 years as a teacher over at the, I guess, Mills High School, in the conference. And just want to say that I've been following the school and the education situation a little bit. I look forward to what we can do to solve our, what I consider a major problem of too few kids for the learning process to be effective. I know when I started 3rd grade, there were 6 of us in 3rd grade. And we got tired of each other pretty fast, and teachers could only call on so many at a time, a rotation of during a class. So whatever you can do, I think the Board of Finance letter that's coming up in item number 4 today will give you an idea of what we'd like to see what can be worked out to increase the class salary and increase the chances of our kids to see bigger horizons. But I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Mike, would you like to? You have a comment?
No.
Keep them over. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Skylar. It's hard for me to believe there are people who don't know you. I feel like you're a legend in so many ways. So thank you.
On your tongue since I last coach talk.
I remember well. Okay. And next on our agenda, the approval of the minutes of our regular meeting. Has everyone had a chance to, of the February meeting? Has everyone had a chance to look those over? Second. We have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
I'm abstaining. I wasn't there.
Okay, 2 abstentions. John? Okay. All right, then our motion.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Next, correspondence. As Skylar referenced, we received a letter from the Board of Finance. I'll read it. I know that many of you went to the Board of Finance meeting last month anyway, so heard, but I will also read this. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I have to.
Yeah. Fine, we'll move this discombobulated. Just.
Hi, Janet.
Can you hear us, Janet? Well, I'm gonna assume that she is just having some.
Yeah, it says, it says connected to audio.
Yeah, okay. So we received this letter to the Botel Board of Education. By resolution of the Board of Finance at its meeting on February 14th, 2023, and pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 10-158A, it is requested by the Board of Finance that the Botel Board of Education contact the Colbert Board of Education to discuss any and all cooperative arrangements that can be explored between both towns, including a merger of the two schools. Signed, very true, yours, J. Michael Sconnors, Chairman. So I wanted to read that and make sure everyone had heard that.
Can you read the last sentence of that? Because I don't recall that from the Board of Finance meeting.
It's actually one sentence, but I will read the end phrasing again. It says, it is requested by the Board of Finance that the Botel Board of Education contact the Colbert Board of Education to discuss any and all cooperative arrangements that can be explored between both towns, including a merger of the two schools. I was
Okay,
also surprised with that phrasing.
My recollection of the Board of Finance meeting was that we were to pursue any cooperative agreement, but there was no mention of merger.
I recall that as well. Nonetheless, this is what we have been given by the chairman. I know that you all know that we are an independent board, that the Board of Finance doesn't have direct control over the Board of Education. But of course, as a board in our town, it's important that we work together and that we understand what they're looking for. And you know, I think it's good we have communication with our Board of Finance, and it seems that they're clearly expressing a point of view. I will say that as you all know, I've spoken with the Board of Ed Chairman in Colbert quite a few times. I actually spoke with him again today. I wanted to check in with him, see how things were going, and to talk specifically about, you know, are there other ways that we can cooperate and collaborate? And I also know that you all know that there are many ways that we do collaborate now. I think that we've talked with the Board of Finance about that before as well, but maybe it'd be a good idea we can talk more about that and help them to remember. But I am in the process of trying to set up an arrangement, a meeting with the Board of Ed in Colbert's president and vice and their secretary, their officers and our officers, as a starting point to really just get together again and, you know, talk again about how things are going. What are the ways that we can work together, like how, you know, maybe we can brainstorm of solutions and that might help us all use our resources well and keep moving forward. So I had a very good conversation with Andy today. He is a really great guy, and you know, I think that there's never any harm in getting people who are all really interested in doing the best that they can for the students in their world. There's really never any harm to getting together and talking, and so I'm really looking forward to that. I think it'll be a really good meeting. And we can also get a feel for, you know, how they're feeling about things there in Colbert and their future and so on. Does anyone have any other comments or questions about that?
I'm encouraged that you're in communication with the board and that we're exploring other opportunities to enhance the educational experience of our students here.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, can we maybe call like a special meeting or whatever the process is to kind of talk about these requests from town boards and maybe just touch base a little bit more? I mean, it has to be a public meeting, is that correct?
Well, are you talking about a special meeting with the other boards in our town?
No, amongst us, just to kind of like talk about this further, because we don't respond immediately. So, I mean, I think I would like to kind of talk this through a little bit.
Yeah. Well, this isn't actually public comment. This is correspondence that we received. So, we we can talk about it now. We can put it on the agenda again to talk about it, at our next meeting about how to manage requests from other boards. Is that the question you're thinking of?
Well, I mean, I think this specific request, I think to
Yeah.
talk about consolidation, what I would like to do is talk about consolidation a little bit.
Mhm.
And, I think maybe I'd like to be a little more prepared to talk about that.
Yeah.
So not right now in terms of like sharing, but I think, maybe do some research and think about it and
Yeah.
just have a conversation about that.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that. Oh, go ahead.
Just wanted to clarify. From what I understood, consolidation was a different statute, there was a different option, a different direction than what was requested in this letter. This letter, I think, was requesting us to talk to the Norfolk Board of Education to see what other kinds of arrangements can be made.
So consolidation is a very specific legal thing
Right,
where you
right.
have to, where you dissolve your school districts and then you consolidate them and make a new school. district. And that requires, several steps, like a town vote and, well, even before town vote, there's studies, there's referendums, there's this very, there's a process that the town has been through a few times. So I think what the spirit of this letter is trying to say is, they're interested in consolidating in a different manner, like, you know, like you can put a tuition arrangement between schools. That's something that a board of ed can figure out.
Mhm.
You, but even really this statute that is referred to here, general statute section 10158A specifically talks about, as I read it, the board's ability to kind of enter into agreements together. And I think its intention is to, with other people, like for like bus contracts.
Right.
Or like, shared services of various types. So I think that this is a big conversation, right? Like this is a little bit loaded. This is a pretty weighted, kind of statement. But it's also true. I think that, there's reasons why there's long processes for these things, and that's something to keep in mind too.
Right, so let me kind of rephrase, because I know that we've been doing things to work together and share resources. Like, for example, John's idea at the last meeting about, make this a STEM forward school and things. I feel like there's a perception in town that the town people have valid concerns that aren't being heard, and we're not doing anything about them. So what I'm asking is, can we maybe like meet and talk through? We've done it before. We put out a Q&A, and that was not well received for whatever reason. I thought it was very clear, and I think some of the criticism of it was ill-informed, honestly. But that's my opinion. But I do think that there is a theme of questions being asked that we're unable to address at regular business meetings. That if maybe we can kind of come together and have conversations about this kind of thing, shared resources, consolidation officially or not, other things, I think I'd like to provide or be part of a conversation that's a little more robust, is what I'm saying. I don't know if that makes sense.
I wonder how to do that. So when the board meets, you have specific obligations for it being posted and public, and it being run in a certain way. We can have a Q&A session. That's what we call the other piece. We can attend as individual members. I think we can attend other things like administrator Q&As. We could maybe put on we could work on something collaborative, like our board could put together something and send it out. Like that's another way I think we can communicate. What do other people think? Like, what is a good way to, be responsive to our public and to keep the conversation you know, what I really want to do is keep the conversation moving in a positive direction, because it does feel like we kind of get stuck and spin in a lot of ways, and what is the will of the board? I mean,
Well, we can't have a meeting to like hash things out. That's not public.
right, that's right,
That's really what we do that.
right,
So. Unless you're gonna call it a special meeting, which is a question I'll be posting.
the special meeting is public too.
Not everything gets out, it's out, it's not like we could look at all on this porch and discuss this, because you can't do that.
Right, and then I feel like that's a big part of the issue, is if I have an idea and I see Ann, and I can't just do it. We have to, post an agenda, has to be a week, like, there's so much bureaucracy that's involved that I think holds a lot of us up, that frankly, I mean, it's very time consuming. And
Yeah, frustrating.
I mean, I know the wheels of politics and education and everything moves slowly. I mean, I live that every day, but in general, I feel like we're not responding to the voices of the town that are coming to us enough, is I think primarily what I'm saying.
Mhm. Well, I have a concern that there's a lot of like rumors going around of, oh, the school is under threat of closing, or the school's gonna close, when there's really been no legal like conversations about that at all. And it's just people hear through the grapevine, like this kind of
Or
conversation.
say misleading things.
Right, and it's like, oh, well, what are you doing about, you know, what with Colebrook, and it's like, news articles out there, it's like, nothing's been done yet, so you're putting the cart before the horse.
It's the tail wagging the dog, as they
Right.
say, right?
And so maybe if when it's appropriate, if we've had conversations, just giving updates on, this is what's going on.
Right, and I'm asking for those conversations. I think, right, when we've had conversations, that's what I'm saying, like, can we schedule some of those? I think there's some
Right.
things that are weighing on me that I think we should all talk about.
All right, let's build those into agenda items.
Okay, yeah,
So,
no, absolutely.
okay,
But then how do we get people to know what we've talked about? Like if Lauren puts it out in the newsletter, that's not from the board and it's just going to the school community, but like, how does the larger community hear what's going on here if they're not watching the video or showing it?
a press release, something like that,
Right.
statement. I mean, those are ways to communicate with people.
Special edition of the Norfolk now.
Or just an insert in it, I don't know.
In color.
There are other topics in art in there, interest people, and we post the agenda and we make it public. And people, are interested, I would hope that they would, or at least watch the recording to find out.
Mhm.
It's only so much that really.
Well, I know that, so Janet, and the communications committee has talked about doing an interest survey among stakeholders to say, give us the topics you'd like us to discuss at this meeting, at meetings, and then we'll schedule them out. Now, I think that Jen's plan is to start that with the 2023-24 school year.
Yeah, I've already outlined something. I just kind of have to final draft it.
So conversations like, and maybe we should do the same thing, like, you can send to me agenda item suggestions and we can build them onto the agenda, and we can, and I really encourage everybody to say what they want to say here, you know what I mean? Like, don't feel like you're not allowed to respond or talk or whatever, like, that piece about public comment is, as you guys have been through the board workshops now, it's what the board representatives tell us to do over and over again. But the concept there is that, don't allow your meeting to be derailed or to get into this kind of uninformed response back and forth,
Right.
you know what I mean? But, with some time to be prepared and to speak intelligently and to give some thought about, what your position is or what all of our positions are. I know I always feel free to, I try to say the things I want to say, and I really hope everybody feels that they can say what they want to say. Boards do not have to agree or anything like that, you know what I mean? And, of course, I would always call everyone to be responsible with the things that they say, but, I know everybody will be. So I think So thank you, Jay. I hear what you're saying, like, let's, you know, address the elephants that keep showing up in the room, right?
So
Go ahead,
may I
John.
say something? So I guess to Jay's question about whether we can talk about consolidation or a merger, I mean, we have been discussing it. It's definitely one of the options which we have considered many times, and it might be the solution, but it is not necessarily the only solution. And some of the reasons which we might not pursue it is because it won't save all that much money. The class sizes won't increase all that much at the very beginning because we have the multi-age model. So we would go down to a very small class size. That very small class size would be added to Colebrook's very small class size. So we would still have pretty small class sizes in a consolidated school. And then in 4 or 5 years, when we're both down to 50 students each, we'll be in the same exact boat that we're in now. So we have that's one of the reasons I brought up the possibility of exploring an after school program, because that could add to the cohort right away, and keep the school that we have, our hometown school. Because I mean, if part of the if one of the things that moved to the town is having an excellent hometown school, not having an excellent hometown school is not going to help bring more people to town. So consolidation just won't save all that much money, and it will increase the amount of time that our students will have to spend on the bus every morning. They're going to add that's going to add for, you know, whatever, for 2/3 of the students. I mean, if you just look at a square with a dot in the middle of it where the school is, and figure that, you know, everybody lives roughly equally spaced, roughly 2/3 of the students are going to have to spend half an hour to 45 minutes to an hour a day on the bus getting to school and back. So just consolidation also doesn't address any curriculum changes that we might want to consider, that would address things like STEM learning, or, you know, whatever better ways there are of teaching reading, or reading better or more different things. So that's why the board will be meeting. We're going to be having a retreat with Jonathan Costa to discuss what all the options are, what they really look like in practice, including consolidation, but looking at possibly an after-school program, looking at taking the personal interest project program, which they have it at Advance, which some of our students have done, which gave our students the opportunity to have, you know, individual project-based projects to work on, based on, you know, their interests, but you know, bringing in mentorship from outside our staff. So adding to the people that they're having their educational experience with, but also giving them something that they, you know, complete from the beginning to the end, and troubleshoot, problem solve, think creatively, and all those things, which are very valuable. So one of the things that has been suggested that we could do right away is put more focus on those personal interest projects, the PIPs. So that's all I have to say right now, and a bunch of people are walking by.
If I could just jump in there. So I think I was intentionally vague because, so I appreciate you explaining what we can and cannot say, you know, at times, because I want to have these conversations. I was not being a proponent of consolidation. I think my own perspective is being a family fairly new to the area, 3 years in Norfolk now. Hotel is 80% of the reason we moved here, like without question. And I can tell you that if my kids had to have a 20-minute bus ride out of town, Norfolk would not have been a decision that we would make. You know, like we lived in Torrington from North Carolina for 2 years, looking at places we wanted to live. And like I said, Motel was 80% of the reason. That's, I think, extremely important. You know, we are bleeding young people away from here because of housing prices. Getting rid of Motel or consolidating or whatever, I promise you that you are not going to raise class sizes in the student population. So I think that's like a super important, and that's something that, like, you know, like I wanted to know, where can I say this?
Yeah. You can say it right here.
Like officially, publicly,
Yeah.
you know, I can say all I want, you know, I wish sometimes, like, when I hear public comments, that I could go to public comment.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I think to talk about it and frankly, refute. But so, I mean, I appreciate you saying that, but what I'm saying is, like, I would like an official venue to say certain things like this, and I sometimes feel, I guess, because I'm also a new board member, that I don't know that I can say these publicly, but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I've been involved in education for a long time. I was a student for 24 years. You know, I've been, you know, a college professor for over 15 years. And so, like, I mean, I've got a lot of experience, and I see these things, but I still don't know when I can say them appropriately, and I don't want to get, like, us arrested or something. You know what I mean?
So I have to go because I've got to get to my rehearsal, but I didn't hear a lot of what Jay just said. However, I did want to say that anything that we do, consolidation, merger, tuition, after school program, expanding the PIPs, it's not going to add a lot of students, and so it's not going to be a silver bullet to solve the number of students that we have. Every single town is experiencing this. If we can bring a few more families to town, if we can add an after-school program that could bring students from other towns, several other towns, that's about the only thing in the short term that will add more students, making Hotel. I mean, it's a great school, making it an outstanding school that has a unique educational approach that might bring people that wouldn't ordinarily go to it. That is the thing that in the long term, it will take a while to do, but in the long term, that might at least stabilize, if not increase our class size. Not tremendously, but somewhat. I have to go, so I have one question, and all of the copies of the Board of Finance budget were given to me to deliver to the Board of Finance. Can I ask the representative from the Board of Finance, Mike, when do you want us? So I will deliver the paper copies of the budget, and then when do you want us to present our budget to the Board of Finance?
Agenda for the Board of Finance for the March 14th meeting.
Okay.
John had copies for all the finance members of the budget that was adopted that will be presenting. He was going to drop them off at town hall. So
Nobody goes to town, hall. That's not a good idea.
So
I'm just emailing a copy.
and then I can do that. All right, John, did you hear that? Don't worry about.
You'll email a copy?
We'll email them to Mike, and then he can distribute them electronically to the Board of Finance members.
Okay, Roger.
Okay, so if you want to just hold on to those, and we'll bring them. We always bring hard copies for the Board of Finance presentations. We'll add them to it.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry I have to go, but I have to go.
Thanks very much, John.
Excelsior.
I don't want to belabor the point, but I do want to just add on to what Jay was saying, and that as a town resident, there are often things that I want to say as a town resident, and have not said at Board of Ed meetings because I have viewed my role here as a representative of the state Department of Education, who's interested in carrying out the state's interest in education for our town. So if this is the right place, then I would like to share those thoughts. If a special meeting is a better place, then I will wait and share those thoughts there. But I do have thoughts about Hotel with regard to my town. Yeah, but I don't feel are strictly like educationally driven, so I don't know.
So I think that this might be, we're kind of all crazy on our agenda right now, but one of the things that I had actually hoped to do while John was still able to be with us was to talk about that board workshop. So I think that board workshop will be a very good place for us to talk about, what we can talk about, make sure that we all understand those parameters and feel comfortable with them. But I wanted to set the date for that. But that's not good news for Jay, because I think the day we have to do it is that you're someplace fantastic. March 18th, I think, was the day. Wasn't that the day everyone said they could
I
be
thought
there?
you said the 11th. Okay.
Well, the
11th.
options that went out were the 11th or the 18th, and I just looked at it again, and everybody but Jay said they could make the 18th. And most people said that was the preferable day, so it was the majority of people. Can you zoom in from England?
I mean, if they have to say Patrick's Day, no promises.
But 9 AM here is noon or 1 o'clock there,
Yeah, 5 hours.
right? Because we're doing daylight savings soon too, so.
Okay. I can try. I mean, no problem, no problem.
That seems fair. Was the 11th not a possibility? I can't remember.
Conversation or something, but.
I don't.
Not a possibility for people?
I'll have to zoom.
Oh, you'd have to Zoom. Is it not? Maybe it was John. who
Yeah, I
couldn't do it.
think so. Okay.
Yeah, I can't do the 11th either.
And Janet and John. Okay, all right, that's what.
On Saturday, the 18th? Yeah, it's gonna be what? Here.
Yeah, if there could be like somebody to fill me in or whatever, I was gonna.
Well, we'll give you a private audience. When we get back, you can share your experience and we can share with you.
It doesn't work here, it's on vacation, just for everyone's knowledge.
9 AM.
Like my-
Yeah, that's a good birthday for them.
It's your birthday?
Happy birthday.
That is true commitment. Only for the board to remind the birthday.
There's times before.
That's all.
Mention your alibi.
All right, let's try, I'm gonna try to get us back on our agenda and bring us to the superintendent. Yes, thank you very much. We will keep you posted.
And your rules. Move just a little bit of a breakage for a second. Define your problem. Or problems. And then define the issue to solve. Is it multiple people? Is it size class? Is it too many classes in one room? Is it an overwhelming physical plan? I get the feeling that there's a lot of solutions in search of what's the real problem.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think,
Find the problem and then outline possible solutions. That may be the framework for presenting those solutions to a larger group, be it another board or be it to the town. And we should solicit opinions from others in themselves.
Oh, we hear 'em.
I think the trouble is how many people can define that problem. Thank you, thanks for coming today.
Question.
Superintendent's report,
The superintendent just needs to take a breath.
okay.
So, just a couple notes. So, the showcase that we had commissioned, Jason Benoit to make is complete. If you haven't seen it, you want to stop down and see it's all installed. And I think Anne's going to talk about reconvening the ad hoc committee to kind of determine just what's going to go in there and how we're going to showcase everything. One of the issues is that when it was first commissioned, it was maybe 2 years ago now, and the quote was $4,000. And as you know, everything has gone up exponentially in terms of price. And, you know, we said to Jason, if things, you know, increase, of course, we're gonna pay. So, you know, the actual invoice came in at $5,800. So I had called Matt to see if he would approve the additional $1,800 coming out of the non-lapsing account. He said he was fine with it. He would have to refer to Mike, and Mike has said that he will put it on the agenda for the next Board of Finance meeting. So that next meeting, hopefully they will approve that and it won't have to come out of our budget.
Because medium eggs.
I'm sorry.
Medium.
Yeah.
Choice of eggs. Right?
Yeah.
I'm so glad my Jen's, like, giving me anyway. So that's really, you know, good news, and I hope the Board of Finance will agree to that. Matt also said that the van will be available, so we could invite the seniors to come to the play on April 1st. And we'll get back to him about the logistics, but they will, you know, we all invite the seniors to come, Matt will provide the van and the driver. Lauren and I had a meeting with Eric, and it was about Matt and about, you know, the needs that our families have here, but the conversation kind of morphed into when he said, you know, how else, you know, could we help? And we talked about community resources, and we talked about some of the conversations we've been having about, you know, expanding the school day, providing additional offerings, ways to bring the community in, even within the school day. And he's been having conversations with people out in the community about having more community involvement. And so I think he's going to try to convene a small percentage of people to come and bring these isolated or these separate conversations together to say, you know, let's all be on the same page here, not all trying to like sell something.
Eric,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll send congregation. So, you know, there's a lot of interest out here in, you know, integrating the community, and we are absolutely, you know, really receptive to that. So to figure out how we can do that in a way that makes sense for everybody. That conversation. You know, I'm glad that John mentioned it. I had a conversation with John about this and individually, but you know, it keeps coming up in some corners about it's the money, about keeping those health schools. And you know, it costs less to have a school here now than it did when I came here 14 years ago. So even though they talk about cost per pupil, the price for having a school, and that price has gone down over the years. The other argument that came up again here tonight was, well, it's the social piece. Doesn't everybody agree that it would be better for kids to live in larger classes? And I talked to the superintendent a few weeks ago in Norfolk, and he gave me his projected numbers for next year. And our projected numbers can be positive. And again, to answer the question, what are you doing about declining enrollment? Well, there's not a hell of a lot we can do about declining enrollment. I mean, we can't produce more kids, but we moved to multi-age, what, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, to address some of that. And when we look at the class sizes, if we were to send all of our kids to Colebrook next year, class size in most instances would be smaller than what kids have here in Michigan. So they would be in a school larger population, but they would not be in a cohort of students that is any larger, and in some cases even smaller. So, you know, I'm excited about the workshop and about talking to Jonathan about what our options are in terms of extending or expanding the school experience and figuring out how, you know, how we can do that and be as inclusive as possible. There's only so much we can squeeze into the school day. And my only concern about putting all our eggs into an after school basket is that we immediately lose a whole lot of kids who, for whatever reason, aren't going to participate. But, you know, I think we can put heads together and come up with some different options and a combination perhaps of things to provide more experiences for our kids. We'll continue to talk about expanding the PIP program. It is in fact continuing this year, and the conversation about bringing it down to the next cohort of lower intermediate kids is in fact continuing. And we'll probably that, I won't go on anymore with that, but.
No, I just wanted to comment on what you said about adding on to the after-school program. And I was thinking about that, and I think that would probably bring a lot of families to town if they knew that, oh, my kid could stay in school till 5:30. I think that's what, or 5 o'clock, whatever. I think that's a big selling point to Indian Mountain for a lot of families too, is because they go till that. You know, kids do their music lessons or whatever after school, and they're there, and the parents who are working don't have to go somewhere else. And I mean, we have Nelsie, but as Jane can tell you, you can't get your kids in there every day.
I also spend more than my monthly rent at Nelson.
Right.
I mean.
Well, you have an
month.
baby there
And
too,
that's
but
not
yeah.
a lot. Yeah, I have a baby there, but also, I mean, and that's, I think that's another thing, like, so there's a desire for us, the 8 of us or whatever, to raise enrollment in the student population, but like everywhere, every town is a 15-minute drive from here, at least, right? And I've been trying to buy a house in Norfolk for 2 years. There's no properties in Norfolk that qualify for an FHA loan because the median income is too high. So that's not a 3% down payment, it's a 20% down payment. I don't know anyone of my generation, and I actually make decent money, and my wife is also employed, that can afford 20% of a $450,000 house.
At 7% right now.
Yeah.
The mortgages are
Like,
7%.
Number one, there's no houses for sale, and the one time a house comes for sale, Danielle and I go look at it, we run the numbers. We can't get approved because I don't have $80,000 right now. It's impossible. So like, I get, like, we can make solution, like, try to find ideas to get some students in here, but until there's housing,
All right,
it's
thank you.
impossible.
Sorry. I had asked Keith was coming to talk to us, but I'm sorry, I started late and ran late, but I know you have to go to the gas meeting. Would you mind, do you mind doing that real quick? Yeah, we're gonna jump, I'm sorry, Jay.
Yeah,
Do you
no,
mind if I
no,
interrupt you just for a second?
Well, I jumped in on Mary Beth's report, so.
I'm sorry.
So I'm your fire marshal, Keith Burns, just so everybody knows.
Where's your hat?
My what?
Where's your
I
hat?
just got a badge. This year was my first year. I got appointed in July, so I came in with a totally different set of eyes in my experience, previous employment. So I went to school, Dr. Capelli was there, Principal Valentino was there. And they've been wonderful to work with as we identified a bunch of things that had to be addressed on some privacy. So the big one, and the reason I'm here is because in the state regulation in chapter 541, it is required by the local fire marshal to actually report to the school board to make sure the school board is aware of what the superintendent of things want. I'm sure they've shared that information with you, but it's just to make sure that we might be doing this part of the regulation. So for future, we do usually schedule just the day before school opens after the teachers move in, so I can go to the school to make sure it's ready to go for the school year. So if you'd like to put me on the agenda in September, October, whenever you feel that's appropriate, just reach out to me and we can make that happen for the next school year coming up, if that's more convenient.
Well, now that we know, so this is the first we learned of this, we have it on our building, like what flag is it next to, you will be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Yes, so that's just a little bit of explanation. So we went through the big stuff here at the school. The fire alarm system is very up to date. The sprinkler system is up to date. It did a 5-year obstruction test, which it passed. There were some gauges that needed to be replaced, but your fire protection system here is very good. And the fire alarm system was worked out to use the Berkshire alarm and updated a lot of stuff there. I also tested your elevator. So, and your elevator calls out and somebody actually responds if you push the button to help. So that's a good thing to know, right? So something. Right? So, it's interesting when you do that. The only other thing that we're working on addressing, and I'm working through the safety committee here at the school with the safety committee, is we have 2 areas of refuge down by the gymnasium and up here. And there's an intercom system that has to work for those people to request help if they were to be located in those areas. And that system is currently not working. But the safety committee has it on their agenda, and they're trying to figure out ways to make sure that gets addressed. All the other bullet points, Bob, correct, Bob was the first janitor, and then he left kind of midterm, and kind of Ben took over, so I was working with both of those gentlemen and Tyler as well. The big issue was excessive storage throughout the school. So I worked with the PTO, so thanks to the PTO ladies and folks on that. We cleared out quite a few different storage areas and classrooms because those would have overtaken the sprinkler system. And we worked on making sure that the ceiling penetrations were taken care of. And at least a lot of other emergency lights and fire extinguishers and things of that nature to make sure all that stuff was properly working. So they're on a good schedule with that now. And I think the word has gotten out about excessive storage. And I think the word has also gotten out a little bit better about how we can apply things on a wall and the quantity that we can apply on the wall. And the reasons why we don't, we limit those for the fire code is that will add quickly to smoke and flame spread. So that was a huge concern that we spent police. Other than that, I did give my good copy to you, and I realized that the yellow copy is not, I didn't inform, she had a copy of it. I didn't make a copy for you folks, but it's very hard to read. I just realized that. So it is available if you would like to read it or have any other questions. And we are all working again to continue to be as safe as we can for the school. The other thing that, just so that you are aware, again, with these ladies, Principal Brownfield invited me several times to witness the emergency evacuation drills, both on the fire side and on the intruder side for safety. So I witnessed those drills, and I thought those were excellent accountability of people in the school and done very well. So that is a good thing to know, that the public should know, is that they practice that stuff here. They have their roots, the teachers and everybody are trained on that, and staff as well as the students. So that's hugely important. I go back to the building and they've been doing their due diligence. That's required as well, as part of the fire safety code. And they do the due diligence. So I think overall we're in very good shape. Continue to move forward and just small issues, housekeeping issues come up. The other, yeah, I think that's it. So I do have another.
Thank you so much for being so patient. I really appreciate it.
Any questions, please feel free. Fire marshal at norfolkcp.org. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any other concern about questions that we might be answered. And the workers for anyone to see it, you can only board if you want to really dwell into it. You'll probably be bored, but I think it's show you if you really want to read.
That.org.
From the Tom website too.
No, thanks.
Any questions or?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks again for your patience.
Yeah, right.
The burning.
The burning question.
For the record, I have 5 children that are currently gone.
So you feel like you're done.
Yeah.
You've done your part.
Right.
Well done. Okay. Sorry, guys.
You were mid-sentence ago.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying that, like, you know, I mean, we can have solutions. I think it's important, but the problem is not for us alone to solve. I mean, there's some real
No.
barriers that just frankly are
They're out of our control.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying, like I said, you know, I'm not gonna have a baby.
And back and forth with the attorney too, because to make sure that, and he keeps reiterating and saying, the board's job is to provide the best education for the children who show up. The board is out of your purview to solve the declining enrollment. It's out of your purview to solve problems that are really much bigger than what this board was commissioned to do. And, you know, in terms of, you know, the multi-age model, I think was huge and has, you know, I know if there are other things that we might be able to do to, you know, impact the social aspects, that's always a concern of ours too. But I think, you know, if, when we talk about the problems, you know, people perceive all kinds of problems that really are not real problems. And, I don't know how you know,
I think they cite those problems because they don't want to say what they really, what their real problem, like, you know, or they'll say, look at the test scores, or they'll say, look at the socialization for the students. Because they don't want to say,
That's all there is, that's the
But
bottom.
as we go forward with the rest of our agenda, where other things are discussed about the education that the children are receiving. Members leave.
Yeah.
So when you talk about the socialization problem at Hotel, what are you citing? If you're not here to hear the report from the principal and the superintendent, if you're not going on and looking at the meetings online, what are you citing? And I feel like it is, I can't say I don't want to spend that much money. I don't have kids there. I don't want to spend that much money. So what can I say? It's not good for the kids. And I don't know how to combat that rumor mill, the misinformation, the number of people in town that come up to me and say, you know, what are you going to do now that the Board of Finance said you have to close? They actually didn't do that, and they don't have the authority to say that. So I'm sorry. These are the things that I don't know where the forum is to say them.
I don't really see why this isn't the forum.
this is, yeah, this is the forum.
State Department of Education, looking at the education of the students in Norfolk. And I can't see how not having a plan where our residents are elected to our board. I mean,
Yeah, no, it is really, it's upsetting and it's emotional. And you know, maybe though, I would love to have a real open, honest conversation. Maybe we should specifically call it as like, you know, here's our special section. You want to hear what our board thinks about it? Because I have a lot of thoughts, you know what I mean? And I kind of wonder, and it's damaging to the school. It is damaging to the teachers. It's damaging to the psyche of the school. This constant threat of, you know.
To the kids,
The children,
my
yeah.
kids, like, do they think we're stupid? Do they think we're dumb? They want to close our school? Like, I have to tell my 9-year-old, no, like,
Yeah.
you know, sorry.
5 of our 7 board members are
Parents.
paying residents and parents of the school, and who are paying very close attention to what's really going on. Your voice should absolutely be very prominent, and this is an absolutely appropriate table to voice those opinions. You know, and you were elected here as representatives of the town, and I'm thinking, you know, to a great extent, you know, because you have children, you have, you know, you have the up close personal view. So, you know, who's better positioned to speak to what happens here and what, you know, what's going on. So I would love to hear more of your voices.
No, I get what Amy and Jay are saying, because like I was approached this week about, you know, could I talk to you about a news article I'm writing about closing the school? I'm like, the school's, it's not, you know, and I had to say, can you please talk to Ann or John? Because wasn't at the last meeting. I don't know what conversations are happening, but I almost sent something, but I felt it was so emotional. And it was like me as a mom, as, you know, and not as, you know, I couldn't speak for the board. And so I said,
In public, you are a board member and you're speaking as a board member.
right. So I was like, I can't. So I messaged him back and I was like, I'm sorry. I cannot really think of anything to say that comes from the board. Like, it's not the board.
Yeah.
It's me being,
And
Here's the thing, but,
you know?
and so this is maybe why it is important for us all to have this point of view, because I did have to, you know, I wanted to respond to the man who had written. And I want to be able to say what I think the board, like what I hear everybody say. So I really would like to hear everybody's points of view so that if asked to speak as a, representative of the board, that I can do that, with a clear conscience. I also think there's a couple ways to think about when you're elected to a position, right? You can either be elected to be a mouthpiece for your constituency, right? You represent your constituency, or you were elected to be like the person who's paying attention and is the expert on the issue. And I feel like I think about that distinction quite a bit because, sometimes I feel like, oh, I got to listen to what everybody says so I can process it all and make sure everyone is absolutely represented. That I often have felt like that. But, sometimes I also feel like, okay, you all have these opinions, but you all have a whole lot less knowledge too, because you don't spend the time because you don't have to, like, you haven't taken on that task, right? So I think it's okay to feel like, you're allowed to move your, like, I've looked at these things, I've paid attention, I'm making an honest assessment. And this is the way I think it should go forward. I think that that's an appropriate way to be an elected official on the board. Anyway, I can see Donna saying TikTok. Let's move on. It's your birthday.
But I don't think any of us would be like, yes, I support closing the school, right? Like, none of us are here for that.
Right.
But you never
I
know.
think it's hard when you're fighting against hearsay.
Yeah, the hearsay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's right. The hearsay, you have just a handful of people in town who prefer to be in Colebrook but live in Norfolk that don't quite give positive feedback to Botel, which causes a bigger issue. And you just have people spreading that same rumor, which it's damaging, and it's like you said, it's not good for the kids to keep hearing. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm to be honest, I voted for regionalization when I first moved back, and I would consider that as an option again. I'm not against that as an option. I'm not gonna wave a flag saying this is the best move forward just because it is a long process on purpose. It is something that has to be studied from both those perspectives and considered seriously before we make a permanent move like that. What I'm not at this point, unless I hear other information, but I'm not a proponent of is not having I can't say Norfolk control of here. So sorry. Maybe my power. My kids' education. But fortunately, they're both really good learners. I think I could stick them on a bus for an hour both ways and they would hate it and they would still learn. But that's not a description of every student in our town, every child in our town.
Don't be sorry.
Sorry.
You're not the only person who usually read.
I want to represent the best option for those kids that can't be on a bus for 45 minutes each way, because that's not going to set them up for learning the right way. I am concerned, and maybe this is what I need to ask about on the 18th. When we try to tuition our kids out, it feels like our kids our Norfolk kids are going to be ranked into the more desirable cohort will go to Indian Mountain, and the not so desirable cohort will get shipped out here, and then we'll have the kids on the bus for 45 minutes out to Norfolk or wherever else, and I can't say that that's a better plan for our students than we have.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's the same reason why Colebrook voted against
Yeah,
the last plan,
really.
and they rallied behind their school and
Yeah.
said, we're not gonna close this school. We need the school. It doesn't matter. Let's fix the building, and that town rallied behind it. And we don't have that here.
It's because we don't have too many enough parents. But here's the other thing, she was like, I don't think we should rest on our laurels. Like, I love John's idea. But as is, Botel is marketable. Like, it brought me and my family here. This school has done wonders for my children who both have IEPs. Well, I don't, maybe like, I don't even certainly, but I mean, but, you know, they came from, Evie had a kindergarten class of like 28 in Torrington. And her speech impediment was so bad because of the stress, you know, she missed, you know, 30 days of the school year. Like, that doesn't happen, like, this school is really special because of what's going on here. It's so frustrating.
Well, we need to hear those kinds of stories and get that out too.
Right, well, and that's why public comment, when people are saying like, my kids don't have homework and all this, I'm like, Evie has homework, Lego has homework. This place has been amazing for my children. I'm
Right.
sorry that your anecdote is different than mine. That doesn't mean that that's gospel, like.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You said it earlier in the meeting, and I don't know what the answer is, but there is so much misinformation in terms of if we just write every kid or every family a check, it'll cost less money, and then they can go to a better school. There's so much wrong with that statement.
Right.
So how do we get out point A, point B, and point C? with just
Oh my
localized-
God, that. Ended the.
Yeah, he ended the meeting.
They don't have a plan. They have no data to support these things that come out of their mouth. They have no idea. When they're called on it, then they shut down. It's unconscionable, the attitude, the affect that is projected from someone who should be an ally of Botel. And when you have that kind of negativity and a first selectman who remains silent, you know, and doesn't have a counter voice to that, it's really difficult. And it plays into, I think, it's what, not the majority of people in Norfolk, but it's the negative people that have the biggest voice. And the people that are happy are saying, no, and you don't hear from them. I wish we could find more parents who are willing to come out and talk about the, you know, all the good. This really is a remarkable.
We should figure out how to fund like an interviewer. So there's a company.
I was just gonna say, I wonder if we can put out an article or something.
Videos.
And get the
Great.
kids to talk too.
Exactly, you know, the
That-
kids. So there's a
about-
company called Allcast that is kind of local to here, and they do a lot of like stuff for nonprofit. They're working with the little girl. Do a video, and I wonder, so one of the things that they like to do is you give them like you give an outline of, you know, these are kind of the points we want to hit, and then you identify some people, and they will actually go and do interviews with people. And I think that could be really effective, you know?
The American Mural Project in Winston also has a documentary crew doing vignettes, and I've already worked with them several times. So that's another possibility to do something like that.
I
Do
really
you have
feel like
media
them
students too?
What's that?
Do you have media students?
We do,
Not really. There's the art students, but they're not
we have
really.
a graphic design department, but it's not like Middlesex does, and they could send us some students.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just thinking like
communications chair, so
free
listen to all
college
these
credit
things.
students, you know, get them,
Mhm.
or, yeah, we're totally.
I know, this is like the craziest
You
thing.
know what? I love it. Needed to have the conversation, so, and there's more to happen.
Well, I'm just really sick of people coming here and like beating us down and us not being able to respond, and like, especially when it's.
Solicit other people's opinions besides just those of the board.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, especially when the things that are so.
The Board of Finance meeting I went to, was a special meeting, there was no public comments, and 20 families that showed up. Walked away
Yes.
from those families.
Yep, he said over.
Listening anyway else.
Not to mention that this statement is actually not what was agreed upon at the meeting.
No, it wasn't. That wasn't what they voted on.
That's
I
what
was
we're,
there.
Put that in
I
Norfolk
was there
now.
as well.
Put that in Norfolk now, that this was not.
It's not what it
this
said.
is
right.
against
Are there
Norfolk.
meeting minutes from that meeting?
There must be. I'm
On
sure
what was
there-
voted, the Board of Finance voted on?
Yeah, it was a motion and a vote,
Okay,
and the motion did not say.
Find that,
School.
and
because it doesn't say that.
It doesn't say
It
these
doesn't
words.
say that's what's in the letter. That's totally not what was said.
Well, let's
Okay.
try to get back to something. So, I think we were at the superintendent's report, and I think that is done.
done.
Okay. And then we have the principal's reports.
I gave my principal's report to our gentlemen and friends who were there so they could see the class sizes, which are in fact, at the bottom of my report that summarize that there are 13 students in our early primary class and 16 in our primary class. 15 in our intermediate class and 21 in our upper intermediate class. So.
Yeah. The fourth grade at Indian Mountain, there's only 12 in each classroom, just so you know. 12.
Oh, and I also have heard that we have 11 kids enrolled so far for pre-K next year.
We do.
We're inviting 11 kids.
11 students to. Might be down to 9
Oh,
because
There's
Well-
twins leaving.
Find a house.
Yeah. And there's less families with multiples. That's another thing. Sorry.
well, you
I
know,
mean, if you had more than one, they suck.
We haven't got it, so Kathy doesn't care.
I just heard another family is looking to buy it. They're spending on buying a house in Winston. I mean, you can't.
It's in the-
It's in Florida and Winston or Colebrook or.
Canaan,
Hartford,
yeah.
Or, you know, so. Yeah, we have declining enrollment, but every time, Mike actually said, there's plenty of low income affordable housing.
Where?
I was glad to see that the first selectman, clarified that in his article that, we don't have it. And you talk about 10 houses, that's not really going to help and it's not going to, but there's not. So it's a much bigger, how do you get people to move to Norfolk? You solve the problem that they can't work remotely here because there's no infrastructure. It's too far of a commute to get to, most of the working places. There's not housing that you can buy. There isn't any business or industry, so you have to travel 20 minutes to a grocery store. You can't buy a gallon of skim milk.
After 2
on a-
p.m.
What?
After 2 p.m.
Or, you can't buy a lunch or a pizza on a Monday or Tuesday. I mean, there's a lot. And, I've heard it at people at economic development and other places that say, we moved here because the colic, the way it is, and it was like this 50 years ago, and we want it to look like this in 50 years. Well, you're not gonna have any kind of change. You will not take any business or industry to offset the, burden on property tax. And you're not gonna build homes that families can truly afford. And then you're gonna make the school the scapegoat of what's going on. They're doing a darn good job trying to, make a
well,
campaign of
my
that.
thing is, like, that's fine if we wanted to stay the same, but then just know we have to pay this for the school. That's what it costs.
You're paying
That's what it
less
costs.
now to have a school than you were ever. I don't think it's ever been, this
No.
about the budget.
Can we co-author an op-ed as a board? Saying these things?
And what?
Can we write
Yeah,
something
because
and put it in?
feels like there's a lot of publicity that is just factually horrendous. That if we could co-author an op-ed saying like what you just said, basically, what we've all been saying.
Each of us have anecdotes about things we've heard that are blatantly false. Is there a way to start just
Like,
with
My
with
school
those?
system sends us mailings all the time. I don't know how cost effective that is. I don't know if people read them when they get them. They're little postcards, they have little graphics about the things that they're trying to tell about enrollment and the taxes and what they're spending their money on, or, a variety of issues and, whether or not they'll put it in the town newspaper, you can still get plenty of word out in other ways.
Yeah, that's why it gets in the school system, the people who are, most proud about this are people who do not have children in the school system.
Yeah, I'm saying
Yeah.
like a mailing.
Like a bulk postal. Yeah.
Yeah, so I get a mailing, I have no kids left in the Simsbury Public Schools, but they still mail everything to all households. Because then everybody knows what their tax dollars is being, what they're being spent on. So
We'll look
there
into
are
it.
lots of ways, I think.
Yeah. Hey, we have a graphic designer
Some
who
of
could
those
make it.
things.
And there's some memo, say, please refer to the video of the board of ed meeting.
Well, I mean, if we could do it, maybe, I mean, I do think we need a bit of a public campaign to basically call out some of these people that are,
Mhm.
It's just,
either naive or nefarious.
yeah, like actually not even the parents.
What is the message? What's the counter narrative that we
Mhm.
want people to
Right.
actually?
And why? Why are these folks doing these things?
Yeah. And because it is about the impact on kids and it is about the impact on staff and, that's hard. It's hard to think about our kids who have to hear the things that are not true, and then they start to think what kids think, which is,
Right.
you know, people think we're dumb. People think that, you know, that they don't like our school. What's wrong with our school? They must not like me, you know, like all the things that little people think when faced with some of the things that
Right.
they're being faced with. So,
And they like coming to school. I mean,
yes, they do.
Yeah, you know,
We solicit a lot of information from our families, and we share it publicly with you and them, and, you know, by and large, it's very positive. So,
right.
okay. The principals report, were you on?
yeah,
Did you? Okay. Okay.
that's a lot of very exciting things, and I will mention that tomorrow with Colebrook School, we are going to the American Mural Project.
Wait,
for-
did you say we're collaborating? with us?
In one short month, our sixth graders and their sixth graders are headed to the major classrooms. So we've got, you know, and on the 13th or the 14th, we're going to Colebrook for an internet safety program. So we've got a busy month ahead of us, and we've accomplished a lot of great things in the previous month. So
Is there a way that we could come up with a list in the last 12 months of all the things that we've collaborated with and done with Colebrook? That we can bring and we can
Just read it, public comment. I was thinking about that.
Board of Finance and say, you know, as we continue, but just so you know, just in the last period of time, here are the things that, you know, we have done and are doing now. Because doesn't matter.
Because if the problem really is not good for the social aspect of our children, then there's the solution. We are increasing the social interaction. We continue to do so. If that's not the real problem, then something to bring forward with the real problem.
Well, it's just very hard because, you know, Skylar stood there and said, define your problem. Okay, well, they defined the problem. They defined the problem as you're too expensive, so we kept the cost down. Define the problem as there's not enough socialization, so we increase the socialization. We define the problem as, you know, we need more interaction with Colebrook, so we get more interaction with Colebrook. The problem is none of those things. The problem is the other agenda that wants the.
Well, and Mr. Thompson, at like maybe 3 months ago, at public comment, said that multi-age model was bad, no research. And then today said you need to increase class size. Which is it? Which is it?
I want to point out, very successful, even though we said request for
6 kids. That's that as well.
Yeah, I just don't, it's just like ridiculous narrative. I don't understand why, like, why are we public enemy number one in town? I mean, frankly, you know, I've wanted to stop being part of this for a while just because of this. I moved to this town to help, and it's really difficult.
True. It's very hard to, also it's very hard to answer logic that doesn't carry through, like the whole need more kids because it's not a good social environment, but I only have 6 kids. Like that, like, it's like none of the logic ever works out.
But then when we're told you don't communicate with us, so we communicate, and then everybody disappears.
Or we're told it's not effective.
Right.
Other than that long email about how ineffective our Q&A
Right.
thing was.
I know.
Okay, standing committee reports, are there any besides curriculum and
I
test?
feel like we covered a lot of things.
Okay.
Do we have to do them?
We don't really have to. So let's see. There are some things that we need to discuss, I think. Well, would you like to give a curriculum and technology report?
Back to math implementation is going well. The PIP project is a huge amount of student motivation and involvement. It's seen by administration, it's seen by teachers. The PIP projects are going to be featured at some of the PTO events so that more people are aware of what they are, and students can fundraise through their PIP projects there in those venues. The early literacy curriculum is still being investigated, and committees are looking at one at least, and then another school is adopted that's on the approved list, and New Hartford is looking at another on the approved list, so investigation into the facilities that meet the right to read legislation criteria are,
Very good and excellently succinct. I feel as though I think that each of these things we've touched on or we've gone back and forth with quite a bit today. So the one piece I would like to talk about is putting together the ad hoc committee that Mary Beth actually referenced earlier today. So now we've got this cabinet. We want to fill it, we want to decide what's going to go on in it. And so, we have all these awards and these histories of different things. I'd like to have a couple of people volunteer to join me. I would like to also be included in this in figuring out what we want to keep, what we want to put there, what we want to put in different places. So it would be, I think it could be done pretty quickly, like in a meeting, maybe two, but probably just one meeting. So it'd be a short-term committee, but it would be about like thinking about the history of the things that we have and how we want to display them in the school in a community friendly. And anyone like to volunteer for that committee?
Mary Pat volunteered.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll email around and see if it,
You said it's a short.
I think it can be like one meeting. And
Everything just on table so you can see all the stuff we have. And then you can look at the showcase, what goes in it, what goes around it. We have the other showcase that has all the athletic stuff that we might want to just leave there, but you can decide that that can stay there. And then there are a number of people who have opined that the Dot Malloy, whatever, that's outside the library could stay there. But we've got stuff in the welcome room. We've got things in boxes and we haven't put up because we knew they were gonna, be moved. So we'll have everything out there. You
All right,
can
I'll
look
come
and
in.
say, "Okay, you'll do it."
God, like I don't have enough going on, Ann.
I would.
Sorry, Anne, I was breaking up when you asked for a favor. I said when Anne asked for a favor, my connection went bad. That's why I didn't respond.
so it's like block, block.
Internet's in and out here, weird.
What if I said that there was like whiskey or something?
Depends on what kind. Actually, that doesn't matter.
Like us, another person from the staff, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Thank you.
So there was a policy read, but let's, in honor of Donna's birthday, I think we move it to April.
Good. I also think, so another thing I really wanted to focus on today was the review the mechanism for the superintendent review. We really don't have anywhere near that. So I think I think we should table that to next. Yeah. Then we can, but do have that in your minds, and consider it so that when we meet in April, we'll be in good shape to talk about that. Okay, so I would say with that crazy agenda that we be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Welcome to the John.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Oh, and just, I want to publicly thank
Aye.
John who brought
Janet, are you
a
aye?
ton of donations
I'm on.
for the school.
I remember you saying others. I was like, oh.
No, supplies and people. Tons of-
Oh,
John, I'm
sorry.
gonna stop recording, okay?
Okay.
All right, bye. I hope Belle's okay. Bye.
Yeah, she's on crutches. She's fine.